Let's move forward here. We have got a very, very fucking special situation going on right now.
Big situation.
We're gonna start these new, more specific segments. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spotlight.
There wasn't supposed to be. Let's cut out the delay.
3 seconds.
Yes, just edit that out.
Let's try it one more time though. Why not? Hey, welcome to Spotlight.
Welcome. Brand new segment that we are going to be introducing. We've spoken about this before. We have finally arrived. We are here at the destination Spotlight. This is going to be a segment that we're going to feature throughout this podcast that is going to do just that and spotlight certain, whether it's things like production companies, movie studios. Sometimes we may even talk about like the equipment that goes into filming, and we're going to do spotlights on anything and everything. The purpose of this is to really narrow in on one thing and really talk very carefully and specifically about that thing.
Yeah.
And just kind of, it's going to be like a learning conversation.
Yeah,
right.
Both for us as well as the audience. Because look, just we're not fucking experts on a goddamn thing, so we're learning as much as everybody else would be. If they don't know anything about what we're talking about. But tonight, or this afternoon, I guess, we've got a very, very special. Even though I think we've already kind of done something similar to this in the past when we talked about this particular company, but fuck it,
let's dive back in. Yeah. Let's go a little bit deeper this time.
Let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. We are doing a spotlight on my personal favorite production company right now, A24.
I mean, what a if you don't know A24 by now,
well, you're about to.
I don't know what you've been doing. Their name has been. If you watch TV, if you watch any just award show over the past like year.
Well, I think a lot of people knew them from that whole Moonlight, La La Land fiasco.
Machina.
That
movies that they produced.
The movies they produced, but I think that whole fiasco was like, it was in the papers for like weeks about this whole crazy thing at the Oscars where they got the movie wrong. Poor Warren wasn't Warren Beatty and like I forget who the woman was, but they were like looking at each other like what do we say? But anyways, let's jump right into the shit.
Let's go to the beginning, right? Let's rewind a little bit to August 20th, 2012. August 20th, interestingly enough, is my birthday, right? So 2012, I don't know what I was doing. Let's see, how old was I? I don't fucking know. It was my birthday. Right. I was doing something, and
that was a road nowhere.
It's just a incredible day in human history. August 20th.
Okay.
So on this day in 2012, Daniel Katz, David Henkel, and John Hodges out of New York City had formed what would become known as A24. Originally, it was known as A24 Films.
Yeah.
So this is A24 Films. It's it essentially specializes in film distribution, film and like television production, right? That's what this company was founded as.
Yeah. So look, let's just go through kind of the founders real quick. So we've got Daniel Katz, who I was just somewhere today and we happened to get into everybody's got a guy. We got a guy, Hey, I got a guy. What do you need? Tires rotated. I got a guy. I got a tire guy. Maybe we'll upgrade that now for 2020 to be. I got a person. I got a person to handle that.
It doesn't have the same allure. It's like somebody says, I've got a person who can do that for you. No, I'll just go to take it to the dealership. I'll pay full price. Oh, you fucking person.
But look, we got a person. All right, you got a person. So Daniel Katz just happens to be the money person. For A24 because of his background in film financing. So he worked for a group called Guggenheim Partners. He was the head of the finance or film finance group there. Now they do a whole lot of other shit. In fact, the other shit that they do is actually like the main shit that they do. Mm-hmm. And film finance, I think, is just kind of a really, really small part.
Movie money.
Yeah, of what they do. But they're essentially, like a finance group. And he also worked for Think Film, which was an art house distribution company that was founded in 2001. But grand opening, grand closing, because it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2010. But there is where he came into contact with, or at least that he kind of solidified a relationship with David Finkel, who is one of the other three founders of A24. So David Finkel, he worked for Think Film, where again he worked with Daniel Katz there, and then he also worked for a company called Oscilloscope. I'm going to get that wrong because I'm stupid, but Oscilloscope, I believe it's pronounced. And he was the president as well as a partner and Oscilloscope is an independent film company and distributor. Oddly enough, they were behind 12 O'Clock Boys.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they helped create that film as well as another film that you probably don't know, but I think is and it's because of one of the songs on the soundtrack I am obsessed with, but a movie called Hello, I Must Be Going. And then we have the third founder of A24, which is John. And I think David Finkel, he's more of the film side of it, more maybe of the creative side. I might be getting that wrong. I don't know these gentlemen personally. And this gentleman right here is David Finkel. The other gentleman we just saw is Daniel Katz. This third gentleman, that is John Hodges, who he was the head of production and development at a company called Big Beach Films, and then after he kind of left Big Beach, or I guess maybe during kind of his time there, he executive produced films such as like Our Idiot Brother with who's the guy who never ages?
Fucking
Paul Rudd.
Yep.
Paul Rudd. As well as Safety Not Guaranteed, which is actually a great film. And this was from the Duplass brothers.
So one note here about John Hodges. So again, he was part of the team at A24 that founded.
Yeah.
Originally, he has since left, so he's been tapped
back
as,
in like 2018, I think.
I think 2019 actually.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019. So he has since left A24. He's now the like head of like the new film division over at Jax Media. So I think he does like all new film projects, maybe going into some like television expansion work as
Jax
well.
Media, that's like where they do all those weird like it's like where they do like marketing and shit, right?
To be honest, I wasn't too familiar with Jax Media.
Yeah, I could have sworn that was where they have all those like the same people who are behind. Who are the people who are behind the Fire Festival? The marketing team behind that.
Fuck. I knew you were talking about, but they weren't. I don't think they were behind the Fire Festival. The joint with John.
No, Jax Media. I'm saying that's like their parent company. That whatever group whatever company that was, I think is a part of Jax Media.
Okay,
but I might be wrong about that. I don't know. All right, let's move forward here. So Katz, Finkel, and Hodges prior to A24 worked in film production before leaving to eventually co-found the company, which originally A24 specialized in basically just distribution of films. Like, so for those who aren't familiar with the process, you have basically your financiers of films, and then you have your distributor for films, especially when you talk about like production companies, and then you have production companies that are responsible for kind of like doing both, which essentially is what A24 is now. But originally they started out as basically just distributing films. So they did that with their first film in 2013, which was A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III. And then but they didn't really pop off. They didn't really spark off until they had
Spring Breakers.
Corinne's Spring Breakers, which starred Dave Franco, or James Franco,
Vanessa Hudgens,
Vanessa
Selena
Hudgens,
Gomez, and
yes.
I believe like a Gucci Man made an appearance.
Yeah,
in this movie.
Gucci was in the film, and he wasn't too bad.
No,
he wasn't terrible.
No.
Yeah, but it was a weird fucking film. But it kind of, and I never watched A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III. Never watched it, but I did watch Spring Breakers. Weird fucking film. Kind of the right film to kind of start off the whole weird A24 kind of vibe.
You make a wild, crazy film.
Have you watched it?
Yeah. Drugs,
weird
and
fucking
sex,
movie.
and just like with the cast that it had in it, like it's just
Yeah.
gonna get your attention, right? It may not be
Yeah.
great, and when I don't think it won any awards, right? But it's like, this movie was interesting.
Nor should
Like,
it. It was
look
not.
at-
It was not an
yeah.
award type of
It's
film.
like, look at this interesting cast and this interesting movie. Then you start asking, like, who produced this movie? Then you're just like, okay,
Well,
who are these guys over at A24?
Even so, I don't even think anybody even back then was really asking like, who's this A24? Really, I think that it's their body of work that kind of has made everybody sort of like, holy shit, like this is it's everything collected that you're just like, holy shit, look at this roster of films,
Yeah.
right? So look, they became better known after picking up the rights to Ex Machina and Room, which stars Brie Larson. Who, and again, if you need to if there's any question about her acting abilities, check Room out. Says everything you need to know about her.
And I think she would go on to win Best Actress for her role in Room.
Yeah, and also worldwide rights to The Witch, which they've grown so much since then with their roster of movies. So moving on here, in May 2015, A24 announced that it would start a television division and began producing the USA Network series Playing House, as well as working to develop a TV series that would later become Comrade Detective, which was produced by Channing Tatum, and I think it was starring Channing Tatum as well. I never actually watched it, so I have no idea. But
yeah, that one caught me off guard. Is that I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't really know much about that project, but I didn't know it was being produced.
I heard
by
about
Channing
it.
Tatum.
I heard about it a long time ago, but I never really followed up to see what it was all about. But it's on Amazon Prime, if I'm not mistaken. The company also announced that they would also finance and develop pilots. Now, look, I just wanted to do some of the notable shows that A24 has been a part of. The Carmichael Show. I don't know if everybody remembers that, and it's such a fucking shame that the show was canceled. I think it was on NBC. I want to say the Carmichael Show was on. It was either NBC or CBS. It was one of those two.
I believe it was NBC.
Yeah. So Gerard Carmichael, who's a comedian.
NBC, definitely.
It was a great show, funny show. I think that's where I first came into contact with Rel, right?
Lil
Rel was on there, I believe. But I just thought it was just this great show that was quirky. It was weird. It was not from the perspective that you would normally look at as a comedy actor and be like, all right, or somebody who's a comic who it just had a different vibe to it. Anyways, you had two dope queens, which one half of that is Jessica Williams,
and Phoebe Robinson.
Formerly a part of the Daily Show, both with Trevor Noah, as well as going all the way back to Jon Stewart.
Yep, and this is like a podcast on HBO. So this is after they I think it was around 2015-16 that they had announced certain partnerships with like Amazon Prime, HBO, and that's when they were starting to build their like television distribution brand division,
branch,
right?
And then also they had Pod Save America, which is a podcast done by some former Obama staffers. Now they only did 4 episodes of that, I think, for HBO. That aired back in 2018 during the midterm elections. But they more recently produced Rami, which is a show on Hulu. Or is it Amazon Prime?
Rami is on
Amazon Prime.
Hulu. Nope, you're correct.
That's at Hulu.
Yep.
Okay. I gotta trust myself more. Which is on
American comedy drama.
Yeah, which it stars the comic Rami Youssef, and I watched a few episodes of it. It was fucking dope. It's from this different perspective. It's about this dude who he's like this young Muslim dude,
an American but Muslim, right?
No, he was born, I think, in America, but
but he's Muslim.
But he's Muslim. Yeah. His family, and I don't know exactly where his family's from. They either Iran and Iraq, somewhere. That's essentially where his family's from. Somewhere in the Middle East. So, and I didn't mean to be offensive if anybody found that offensive. I don't know specifically.
Found that offensive.
I don't know specifically where his family's from. I'm sorry. Yeah, so they start this whole thing with their TV division to kind of show like that they've got much more than just their film division.
Yeah.
And I think around this time is when they start switching from just being distributors to actually being financiers of films. So so one of the films, and I'm gonna kind of jump around in my notes here, but one of their first film that they ever actually took a chance on was a film that nobody could have expected to ascend to the heights that it did, but it was Moonlight. So Moonlight was the first movie A24 financed on its own, marking the company's transition from indie distributor to full-fledged art house studio. Barry Jenkins, he isn't clear on why they chose his film, and from certain comments that they've made, they just identified with the script,
Yeah.
And he even goes on to say that they're like ninjas, man. This is a literal quote from they're like ninjas, man. They just read everything. But he knew it was important to find a backer that would allow him to stay true to the story, which drew from his upbringing and from a semi-autobiographical play by Terrell Alvin McCartney.
Yeah, and that just goes into the fact that I think people at A24 are very smart in like the projects that they choose, right? And you choose these projects not necessarily based off of like the thing, but the people who are behind the thing, right? Because you could have a great thing, but if the people behind it don't have the right vision and the work ethic and the resilience to see that thing come to life, it's never going to work, right?
No, absolutely.
And that's what they did here with Moonlight, right? There was a really, really good idea, really good script. There was a person behind it who can bring it to life, and A24 invested in that person.
And look, you can't really be mad at yourself because they fucked around and won Best Picture off of that. That's a come up.
Exactly.
So it just speaks to their vision of and look, I think this next thing that I'm going to read illustrates exactly why I find them to be just the dopest, right?
Yeah.
So
before you go into that, I think we skipped over one thing which is like significant in their history, right?
Sure.
So when it was founded as A24 Films. In 2016 is when they made the transition to just going as A24.
That's
I think
equivalent of
going from the Facebook to Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And like. It's subtle, small, very small change, but like it
affects everything.
Amplifies your branding so much.
Well,
like A24 is just so much cleaner.
I'm glad that you kind of alluded to the branding and the marketing, because this is why I think, in a nutshell, why I find them to be so distinct than anybody else right now in the game, right? So, and this is per the Wall Street Journal. A24 has proved adept at not just picking movies but packaging them, setting up attention-grabbing campaigns that feel true to the material rather than gimmicky feints. In 2015, or at the 2015 South by Southwest premiere of Ex Machina, A24 created a fake Tinder profile for the film's robot star, played by Alicia Vikander, who popped up in local swipe results, asking users algorithmically generated questions about love before pointing towards the movie. An ingenious ploy that underscored A24's more bang for the buck mentality to hawking its films. A lot of sense of the movie issues in Hollywood have to do with trying to manufacture culture, something cultural, says Finkel. Buying billboards and big TV spots and forcing a movie down people's throats. He cites A24's promotion for The Witch, during which the company created a cryptic social media presence for the film's ominous goat, Black Phillip, who plays a small but crucial role in the film. If we build a campaign around a cool interactive goat who creeps you out on its own website and on Twitter, saying things that go viral, it becomes culturally organic.
Yeah, it grows within itself.
That's it. That's the game. The game isn't to just do the same old shit of putting up billboards, buying TV spots, doing this, doing that. That's the land that everybody lives in right now. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for it. There certainly is. As we're seeing with the election and Mike Bloomberg and these goddamn ads that he's buying, right? That there's some, there's something to it that they work, right? But the place that we live in right now is who can like. That's why Fire Festival. That's why it worked. That's how they do
they
those
tapped social
fucking
media.
people to come to this fucking island, and they didn't have a goddamn thing because they had a fucking orange tile.
Yeah.
What?
Like, and that color just branded the entire festival. And it's like when people saw that color, they associated with that festival, and it became a thing in and of itself.
And that's the world we fucking live in.
What they did with the Tinder profile and Ex Machina, brilliant, right? Because it's like, all right,
genius.
What are people doing? Like, I can show you a commercial.
Yeah.
Right? I can get a billboard. I can do some print.
Or
like,
I can have you interacting with this shit
this Tinder
in a
thing is
weird
pretty cool
fucking
right
way.
now. Let's make a Tinder profile for one of the stars in the film,
and it
interact.
folds into the thing itself. It's organic to the thing, right? So that's something that's something that could be plucked directly. Like, so for instance, for those who haven't watched Ex Machina, sorry for this, but for those where she gets out and she's traveling, that could be a fucking scene at the end of the movie, is her hitting up Tinder like, hey, you know, and like, so it's just like, that's fucking genius. And if you don't have a lot of money, which, you know, A24 is a really small, or I guess maybe not now, not so small, but back then, speaking specifically about back then, this small production company, or at that time distributor, you're thinking, how can I make the most with so little?
You can't buy
like,
a Super Bowl ad at that point in time, right? You have to be like impactful in your marketing and in the way you reach people, and you have to grow your brand organically, right?
Yeah.
And then once the brand grows, you could do some of the more traditional marketing, but you have to find a lane that no one's really driving in and take that lane.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Yeah, that's what they did, and it's amazing that they had the forethought and the vision to do that. So I'm gonna, you know, a part of this that I wanted to do was is just kind of go through like why I fell in love with A24.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna run through a list of my favorite films that I watched from them. So starting with The Spectacular Now with Miles Teller and God, now I'm gonna forget her name. She's in Big Little Lies.
Yep, don't know.
Fuck. She played what's the other, not Hunger Games, but what's the other one? The Insurgent or whatever, what's it called?
Oh,
Divergent.
Yes, it's fuck. I know exactly.
Damn
what
it,
you're talking
I forget
about.
it. Anyways, they were in the film, The Spectacular Now, and it's just this like coming of age story about two
Shailene Woodley.
Shailene Woodley, yes, fantastic actress, and her and Miles Teller, they knocked it out of the park. Great film, great story, and great, you know, it was executed in such a great way, and also too, it felt like a quiet story. You know, it's not like this big thing that like, you know, is meant to be like, oh my God, this is, you know, I can't believe this is a crazy thing, you know, but like it was just a quiet story, you know, that was told, and it was done in such a artful way. The next is Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. Fucking weird, fantastic film about like how like Jake Gyllenhaal plays this guy who essentially like he finds he finds somebody who looks like him, and he just starts following him, and then he gets wrapped up into this weird like conspiracy kind of. It's just a weird fucking movie, and it ends in a really weird way. But I was fucking in it, and it's Denis Villeneuve, who's gonna be, you know, he came out with Blade Runner 2049. Also, he directed Arrival. He was the director of that film, and it was like my first introduction to him, and I thought it was a fucking incredible film. It was great. Ex Machina. What are you gonna fucking say? The film's fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant film from Alex Garland. Oscar Isaac gives a fucking mesmerizing performance in it. And to have, again, be a company, and at that point they're distributors, right? So they're just these are films that other people are passing up on, and I just don't. How do you pass? How do you have
like
shit
the
like this?
foresight to like be able to see a film like Ex Machina and say, oh, you know what, that has something about this, or Room, or like American Honey. How
do you watch this and not think it's something that you should buy, right? So if you're one of the studios, how the fuck do you think this is something that you should invest in? This is crazy. Okay, and then I have Room. Again, Brie Larson gives a fucking incredible performance in it, and so does the kid, Jake Tremblay, I believe his name is
Jacob Tremblay.
Yep. Yeah. They both give great performances, and it's a great story too, or tough story, but it was told in a great way, I think. You have The Lobster, which is it's a weird fucking movie. The Lobster is a strange film with Colin Farrell in it, but it's weird and it's great at the same time. Swiss Army Man, we've talked about it. We talked about it last week. Again, weird fucking movie about a fucking corpse that farts, and somehow at the end of the movie you're like clapping. Like it's a weird fucking course of events that happen. Again, without one Best Picture, Moonlight. There's not enough you can say about the movie. Barry Jenkins gave such a thoughtful fucking film, and it was done in such a stylistic way. And it's crazy that's the first film that they thought, let's take a chance and finance that, because there's so many, other studios and production companies that would not take the chance on that film because of the subject matter, and because it was told by a black man. Like, look, I'm not looking at these receipts and thinking people want to watch this film,
like it felt like a risk, right, for a lot of other studios, but A24 had like the forethought to say, hey, this risk is worth taking. And then it paid off in the most
right? major of ways, and it's a beautiful fucking film.
Yeah, absolutely.
It should be appreciated. My next film is 20th Century Woman. I wanted to watch the movie for a while, missed it when it came out in theaters, but I just kept seeing the commercials, the trailers for it, and I just kept thinking, like, there's something different about this film. And God, and I'm gonna forget her name, but it was the first time I think I ever saw Timothée Chalamet.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's in this film, but also one of my favorite actresses, as well as directors right now, is Greta Gerwig. She's in this film as well, and she gives a great performance in the film. Great movie. Can't say enough good things about it. A Ghost Story. We're going to talk about some of the forthcoming movies from A24, but A Ghost Story to me is really quiet, weird fucking movie with Rooney Mara and Casey Affleck. Again, quiet, weird, but still just great movie about this couple who they move into this house, and the house has like a history with it, and it like might be haunted. Like, it's just like a weird fucking story. As well as I love the soundtrack from that film as well. Then you have the Florida Project with God, now his name's
Willem Dafoe.
The Florida Project does have William Dafoe in it. Wait, no, is that the Florida Project?
I'm pretty sure it's
yes.
Willem
Okay,
Dafoe.
where he plays he plays like the person managing the
hotel.
It's like a hotel or motel or something. I don't know.
Interesting. I learned that he had like went and lived there like for like 2 weeks before starting film, just like immerse himself like in that that environment, right? Yeah. Which for someone very like rich and wealthy like him to say, hey, I'm gonna leave all of my comforts, I'm gonna go literally live in this place to better understand it before we start filming. Like, I respect the little stories like that actors go through, or actors and actresses go through, to find the character.
Yeah. What I love about it is so Shaun Baker directed the film, and what I love about A24 is I feel like they believe in the creators. Mm-hmm. They believe in them. They put their faith in them, and they say, go do your thing, right? Because Shaun Baker, he made Tangerine, and what's unique about Tangerine is that he made it with an iPhone. But he's a well accomplished and experienced director. I think he was just trying to push the limits of like what he could do. But Tangerine was a great film, but then to follow that up with the Florida Project, mm-hmm. which again was like this kind of like, it's just like a weird story that it felt pretty personal to Shaun Baker. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it has anything to do with his life or not, but it felt personal. But for them to give him the freedom to just, hey, we saw your work already. Yeah. We know, we love your shit. We've read the screenplay.
We just trust you. Go be a creator.
Yeah. Lady Bird. Again, Greta Gerwig. She directed her first film that she directed with you remind me of the actress's name.
What's her name? It's
Saoirse Ronan or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I had
Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah. Great fucking film. Again, coming of age story, told in this very sort of stark and weird way, and it's kind of set in the 90s, and it reminds you of the 90s. It reminded me a lot of Daria. With the way she sort of portrayed with the way and it was kind of
based coming back, I think.
Oh God, I hope not. They just need to leave that. They need to leave that gem alone.
I forget who's revamping it. But I feel like it might be like Netflix or something like that.
All right, that might be rough. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna give you a short list of mines here, just because I think I found A24 a little bit later on in the game than you did. So the first movie I found by A24 that I really loved was Locke. So this is a movie with Tom Hardy, where he played he played like a site manager for like a commercial construction company, right? And this movie really just takes place like in the car. It's just him on a very long drive to London, where he is going to be present at like the birth of his I think his son, with a woman that he had essentially a one night stand with, right? And now he's a married man, so you've got this 4-hour drive ahead of you to the birth of your child. You're dealing with that, like getting there, being present there, and also telling your wife that, hey, listen, I've got a kid on the way. Clearly, it's not with you. You're not pregnant. We had this one night stand thing that happened, and here we are. Could you imagine that 4-hour ride is the longest car drive ever? Like, so he's going through all these. He's trying to balance work, personal life, his marriage crumbling, a child on the way, and I feel like it was for me. It was just like a really real experience where we've all had that one long solo car ride, right? And this is just like an examination of one person's moment. So Locke for me was phenomenal. It was later on that I found Ex Machina, and then I would eventually go on to find what is it? Fucking Moonlight, right? And then from there, I was kind of just sold. Like a lot of the more recent projects A24 is done. We've got Lady Bird. Some of these I haven't seen. Some of the upcoming ones, the Green Knight.
We'll talk about that in a second. The
Eighth Grade. Was Eighth Grade we saw.
It's on my list too. It's a fantastic movie.
I mean, it's just a slew of stellar projects that they've both produced that I've seen, and then some of the upcoming ones.
First, and let me mention First Reformed, great movie. Although I don't think it was it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, but it was still great nonetheless. Hereditary, Ari Aster has been A Star is Born with Ari Aster when he came out with Hereditary, because he then followed that up with Midsommar, which was I think that was the last A24 film I've watched. Although I do want to watch Adam Sandler in
Uncut Gems.
Uncut
I also
Gems.
want to see The Lighthouse.
Yes, I want to see both of those. Yes, basically
crazy.
everything that they do, I want to see. I just haven't gotten a chance to yet. Okay, so let's talk about some of the upcoming movies that they've got. What can we look forward to from A24? Just few of the ones that I jotted down. We've got The Green Knight, which we talked about. The trailer just dropped not too long ago. It's directed by David Lowery, who again he directed A Ghost Story, which I absolutely adore that film, and it stars Dev Patel and is due out May 29th of this year. One that I didn't even see coming, but apparently has been in the works for a while. Macbeth. We're getting our 10,000th Macbeth movie, which is of course based off of the Shakespeare
play.
Play. But this is being directed by just Joel Cohen. So if you are familiar with the Cohen brothers, they're two brothers who I think it's Jeff and Joel. I don't know. I forget the other one's name, but Joel. This is being directed by just Joel Cohen. But one of the interesting things, it's got Frances McDormand, who's playing Lady Macbeth, I believe. But then guess who's playing Macbeth?
Who?
The man himself, Denzel.
Word.
And
Okay.
so
I didn't even see that on the list. Upcoming projects.
So this is being filmed. Actually, it start production last month or this month, because we're still technically in February right now. But the production started in February 2020, so I'm guessing it's going to be a 2021 release. I don't know. It's still to be determined. And then we're getting The Souvenir Part 2, which I'm not necessarily familiar with. I didn't watch The Souvenir. I wanted to, but I just didn't get the chance to. But apparently it's a big deal, the Souvenir, because I think it was up for like a ton of awards last year. Not for this Oscar season, but I think for the last Oscar season. And I think so. I think it was. I don't know. I can't remember. But anyways, apparently the Souvenir is a big deal. So they're coming out with the Souvenir Part 2, which is very interesting that they're diving into sequels apparently. And this is directed by Joanna Hogg, and it started principal photography in 2019, so I'm assuming that it's going to come out this year at some point. And then we've got another movie. This last movie I'll mention is False Positive, which is directed by John Lee. One of the reasons why this caught my eye is because it stars Alana Glazer, who stars in Broad City on the comedy on Comedy Central, which I adore Broad City. I think it's a great fucking comedy show. But that stars Alana Glazer in it. I think it's Abby. The other actress in it is Abby. I want to say Abby Martin, but that's not correct. It's Abby something. Yeah, I forget what her last name is, but those two together are just magic. And this is supposed to be a horror film. And it was, again, it had principal photography back in 2019, so I'm guessing it's going to be this year. If not, then it most likely 2021. So that's all I've got as far as the mentionables from upcoming films. You got anything?
Yeah, the only film right now that I'm looking for coming out of A24, and this film is set to release on March 6, 2020, which is right around the corner, is The First Cow. This
did we talk about this? What movie
no, we didn't. This movie looks weird and quirky as fuck. It is literally about a cow. I guess a Chinese immigrant, Orion Lee, and his relationship with this.
This comes out in theaters?
No, I don't know if this. To be honest, I don't know where this is coming out, but I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a quick synopsis really quickly because this just sounds so interesting. I don't even know this word. A taciturn loner and skilled cook, John has traveled west to join a group of fur trappers in Oregon Territory. The Chinese immigrant also seeks his fortune soon. He collaborates with a successful businessman, and the wealthy landowner owns this like prized cow, and I guess ultimately this Chinese immigrant John and this very important prized cow develop like a unique bond and relationship. It's literally about a fucking cow. Listen,
sounds right up A24's.
But I imagine there's gonna be like so many like complexities and so many like interesting characters and storylines, and A24 movies just find a way of seeming weird on the surface, but then you find like a gem in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the magic to it. So look, to in summation, look, I don't know if people really look necessarily to production companies as far as like making playing a factor in if they're going to actually like watch a film or not. But I know for me personally, as soon as I see that fucking logo right there, I know I'm checking out wherever the fuck
you're getting something good.
I know, right? I'm getting something. Yeah,
that's looking like an Apple logo these days.
It's looking increased. Look, they just teamed up with Apple actually not too long ago. They in November 2018, A24 signed with Apple to develop a film slate including On the Rocks, which reteamed Sofia Coppola with her Lost in Translation star Bill Murray. So everybody's gonna be checking for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like whatever happens, man. I love the content that they make and that it's weird, it's quirky, and they've been able to stay true to that. Like it's different because a lot of times with the stratification of how Hollywood is right now, you got all the money at the top with all these big tentpole films, and then you get a little bit of this trickling with films at the bottom. Now that middle section of movies is all but disappeared, with the exception of A24, that they're able to make, and I think it's because of that groundwork that they did with the marketing and how they distributed the films, where they did these weird marketing tactics where they didn't just take the route of let's just slap some billboards up, let's just do all these things. They did things that were interactive, that were organic, that felt natural to the films themselves. And also they just pick really great content to fuck with.
And that's the difficult balance. Like and like being able to see the massive growth that they've seen, but still say, hey, like we're still very careful about the products that we produce, the people that we work with, and our brand in general. You got to admire a company like that.
Yeah, they're based in New York, and they just do really, really fucking great work, and I'm so glad that I was able to discover them, and that they're still churning out work, because I know, just like some of the companies that we mentioned before that are now, defunct and bankrupt and this and that. I hope they have a long lasting life, and I can't wait to see their content. It's I literally look forward to it. And I can't say that, and I don't know if I'm Universal. I'm not like I'm looking forward to Universal content.
The only company who I can think of that, like, whatever they put a stamp on, I'm looking for it, is like, honestly, it's Marvel, right? If Marvel's putting something out, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, but that's almost by like default, right? Because it's like, where else are you gonna get the crew to go watch? Like, get the crew, get everybody lined up, we go watch the latest.
We know who they are, but we also know the quality of like the shit that they produce.
It's great shit.
But for A24, for me to have
to do
Marvel
that with no
on the
concept
list,
of the company,
A24, that speaks volumes in and of itself, right?
Absolutely.
But again, in summation, we want to wrap up this spotlight segment here. This is something that we're going to be continuing to do throughout the show. We do not know what the next feature is going to be, but it is going to be something great like this feature was. So you learned about A24 today. We gave you a slew of projects that they've produced, some of the upcoming projects. If you haven't seen any of those projects, if you don't know who A24 is, if you haven't checked out a single movie,
their shit out.
Of the ones that we've mentioned, go watch one. I mean, if you're going to start anywhere, maybe just start with Moonlight, or start with...
Is it Moonlight?
Start with either Moonlight or Ex Machina.
Yeah,
I think either one of those films.
If you start with Ex Machina, you're gonna be like, wait a minute.
What was that? What were my plans tonight?
All right. So